So maybe after spending just a little bit too much time in the Outer Worlds these last few days, it is finally time for things I wish I knew earlier in the Outer Worlds. Let's not waste any more time and jump straight into it, as there are quite a few items on this list of tips and tricks. First of all, one of the most useful things, and one of the things I'm most surprised isn't a default preset option instead of being a thing you can disable. What I'm referring to is in the menus while we're checking out our weapons, it'll show us the base damage or DPS, damage per second, of that weapon as it is, without taking into account any of our stats or scaling. Which means that while one weapon could be effectively better in its base form than another weapon, maybe with our specific stat setup, a different weapon is actually going to be doing more damage than the other one, even though its base stats are lower. Thing is, if we go into the settings, we can actually see the option here to disable show base stats. If we disable this, it'll actually show the DPS or damage of the weapon already taken into account the stats of our character as well, which means we can see the final stats of the weapon instead of just the base stats. The second thing we're going to be talking about isn't exactly hidden in the game, but it is hidden how important this can be. And that's that you want to get your science skill up to 20 as soon as you possibly can. That way at the workstations you can tinker the weapons. Tinkering weapons on this game practically just means upgrading their level so they do more damage and get better stats. That way you don't have to rely on finding new, more powerful weapons when you can just upgrade the ones you already have or the ones that you really like already. As you can imagine, it gets more and more expensive the higher the level the weapon is and the more you upgrade it. And you can only upgrade a weapon up to 5 times higher level than your character currently is at. Now this next one maybe only comes into play if you've played some of the older Bethesda games, such as the Elder Scrolls, and don't worry, we're going to try to keep the comparisons the least as possible between games like Fallout and this one, but specifically talking about the steal mechanic, we're used to games like we said on maybe Oblivion, that if you steal an item, whether you get seen or not, you can't really just sell them anywhere. You have to find specific vendors or sell them cheaper, and they're very clearly distinguished in your menu which ones are stolen and which ones are not. However, in the Outer Worlds, really, as long as you don't get seen stealing it, it's fine. Like, once it's yours, and it's as if you'd have just bought it from a shop or found it on the ground somewhere. You can sell it to any vendor as if it wasn't stolen. There's really no repercussion for stealing as long as you don't get seen. And quite honestly, even if you do get seen on this game, it's not a huge deal most of the time. Usually, if you get caught stealing, somebody will approach you and you can either lie or persuade or intimidate your way out of it, and nothing really comes of it other than losing a little bit of reputation in that faction. With that said, there was this one occasion where they caught me stealing. I think it was twice in the same place and they all just started shooting me, but I walked out and came back and it was pretty chill like 2 minutes afterwards. So the point of this, if you want to steal something, go ahead and just steal it. Pretty good life advice in general. This next one is only really that useful if you're planning on playing on Supernova difficulty, as some of you have probably unfortunately found out that the companion deaths on Supernova are pretty much permanent. If your companion goes down on Supernova difficulty, unlike on normal difficulty where they just get knocked out and then they come back to life after you finish that encounter, on Supernova they're not coming back, they are dead, that's it. So on Supernova, I would definitely recommend not bringing your companions out into battle until you have access to the Don't Go Dying on Me perk. What this perk does is so that when you go to heal with your inhaler, it actually revives any teammates that recently just died. So if they do happen to go down, you can quickly bring them back to life and give them another chance. Sure, this perk does have a cooldown of 15 minutes at a time, so if they do happen to die twice in that same 15-minute fraction, they are going to be dead permanently, but it's nice to have that second chance every now and then on Supernova difficulty. And of course, this perk does work on other difficulties as well, and it's kind of useful, but it's definitely not as important as it would be on Supernova. Now that we're on the topic of perks, definitely go ahead and upgrade your run speed as soon as you possibly can. Like, one of the first, if not the first perk you should upgrade is definitely the run speed. Because heck, you're going to be running around the world a lot, and it's going to definitely speed up the process of literally everything and get everything done a little bit quicker. So statistically speaking, it is the best perk you can unlock first, as its, let's say, compound interest of time saved over time is going to be so much more than anything else you can unlock this early on. So for the first few hours, and in my case quite a few hours, I never really checked out the inhaler/consumables menu very much, as I was so immersed in everything else in the game. It's very overwhelming, a lot of things to learn. But soon we realized that if we go into our medic/consumables menu, the first item always has to be the Adreno shot. And this is what heals 25% of our health over a 2-second period. But then next to it, the higher we upgrade our medic skill, we get more and more slots beside it. And these other slots are to combine with other consumables to get other effects other than just healing. This means that any other consumable we equip beside the Adreno shot, that when we press L1 and use the inhaler, we'll get the temporary buffs off of those consumables as well. And that's not the tip, obviously that's pretty straightforward, and most people have realized that by now. The thing I didn't realize until quite long into the game, I never really thought about it, that you can actually unequip the Adreno shot. But you can't just do it by reselecting it as you would any other item. You actually have to press the options button while on the Adreno shot and then go up to unequip. And even without the Adreno shot, you can put other consumables in the other slots, so you can use the inhaler to get buffs that have nothing to do with healing. This can be extra damage, extra movement speed is especially the main one I used it for. As you can see here, getting 20% movement speed just for traversing through the world is really useful without wasting any Adreno shots every single time we want to use the inhaler for different buffs. Next thing I've seen that's quite annoying around the internet is a lot of these guides or tip videos are saying to save your skill points until later on. Like, don't spend your skill points and perks maybe until you encounter a situation where you actually need those skill points. Which at first sight may seem like good advice, but considering on this game it's really straightforward to respec both your skill points and your perks pretty cheaply. It gets more expensive each time, but you can go to the ship whenever you like, and just above the workstation, you can just respec them all whenever you like pretty much in the game. So don't sweat too much where you put in your points or perks, just have fun with it, and then you can just readjust them afterwards if you really need to. And unless you're playing on like Supernova or even hard difficulty, it's not like a huge deal. I had my points all over the place on my first playthrough and it was just fine. Don't worry about it too much. Another one that I was hesitant to even put on this video, as again it's from pretty much every tips and guides video I've seen so far, is like #1 on everywhere, but it is a pretty useful tip for those of you who like to have your menus and inventory all sorted very specifically, and it's a cool feature that's actually really nice that they included it in this game, is that if we press the options button, or whatever the equivalent button would be on PC and Xbox, you can sort your inventory here by weight to value, by value to range to melee. There's a ton of different ways of sorting your weapons and stuff out, which is really, really cool, and like I said, could be useful. I personally didn't use it too much, but I'm sure some of you will enjoy this feature. So unless you're playing on Supernova difficulty, where they'll probably be dead most of the time, you're going to spend a lot of time staring at your companions and speaking to them as they follow you around, etc, etc. And as cool as some of the helmets and gear can be on this game, I personally do like seeing their faces. It just adds a more personal level to the companions and makes it feel more immersive. But obviously you don't want to remove the helmets because you don't want to get them shot in the face. But luckily for us, again, if we go into the settings menu, we can actually disable both ours and our teammates' helmets visually, which means they'll still have them equipped, but we just won't be able to see them, which is exactly what we want. So go ahead and do that if you want to see your companions' faces while you're playing the game. So again, it's a pretty nice feature. Your own helmet doesn't really matter, as there's not many situations in the game where you see your own character anyway, other than if you're like AFK or something. To be honest, quite a few open world RPG games these days is the fact that you can sell stuff in bulk, which means that when we go to a vendor, we can just hold a button down and, let's say, sell everything in the junk category, which a lot of the items we pick up that have no other function other than to be sold will automatically be put in the junk category. However, we can manually add things to the junk category if we wish to. Let's say there's a ton of weapons we want to get rid of, or we're just going through our inventory trying to sort it out, so that next time we go to a vendor, we can sell it all at one time. So we can just quickly tap square, or whatever the equivalent button will be on Xbox and PC, to add any single item in our inventory to the junk category, and then just get rid of it all at once, which is a nice time saver. Another thing that I'm not going to recommend doing, but if you're going to play on like lower difficulty levels, I would definitely say go ahead and go for it, is that when you're in character creation, decide to go for below average intelligence level. And while it does have its debuffs, it can be really cool that during certain dialogue options, you'll get the decision to have this dumb reply option, which sometimes can be absolutely hilarious and really just funny sort of outcomes to the situations. And if you're playing on any other difficulty other than Supernova, there's no other way of getting the dumb option. On Supernova, if you let your character dehydrate or have sleep deprivation, you can actually drop your intelligence down to get below average intelligence, which means you'll also have access to the dumb answers. And just as a side note, there's actually a specific trophy where you need to use a dumb response to one of the endgame decisions. But just for entertainment value alone, having the dumb option is pretty cool sometimes. Also, it's very important to get your engineering level to at least 20 as soon as you can. This way you can repair your weapons on the fly without having to go to a workbench. Because unless you're repairing your weapon every single time you go back to a town or something, this is something you easily forget about, and then in the middle of a major encounter, in the middle of a mission, in the middle of nowhere, eventually your weapon will just break down on you and you're kind of screwed. So definitely get engineering to 20, which luckily for us, 2 of the previous tips included leveling up medical and science skills up until 20 as well, which all happen to fall under the tech category along with engineering, so we level them up all together anyway. So this is pretty much perfect and just a reinforcement of why leveling tech up early is a really, really good idea. For the most part, those are the tips and tricks I wish I knew earlier in the Outer Worlds. Two quick side things: make sure you save often on different save files. I have like at least 20 different save files at different points through the game, just in case there was an important decision I didn't realize or I screwed up somewhere. I always just liked having the option to go back, mainly for recording reasons, but if you are a little bit paranoid like myself on these decision-making games, where the outcome can be pretty important depending on what we choose, just make a ton of save files. There's no repercussions for it. Make as many as you like. And this last little one, I'm not going to go too far into for spoiler reasons, but I read this somewhere and I didn't really pay much notice to it, but now I agree with it. Don't get robophobia. Accept any flaw you like, but don't get robophobia. Trust me on this one, guys. You'll thank me for it afterwards. So that's it. Other than that, guys, just really enjoy the game. It's a pretty short game as well. Like, the story isn't incredibly long. So really get into the side quests, do all the tasks, talk to all the NPCs and stuff. Really immerse yourself in this world and enjoy it for the game it is. Don't rush your way through it. There's no post-game. There's no new game plus, so don't try to rush your way to the end or anything like that. Just enjoy the experience. I hope you did find this video helpful, guys. I hope you really are enjoying the Outer Worlds. As usual, leave in the comments down below any other tips you have for the newcomers or veterans to the game. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.